So I'm just putting in these last queen cells from our last harvest, last set of grafts, because that's it for another week, because there is no pollen and there is no nectar out there. It's an absolute dearth that we've never seen before. One more. Okay, so now the what will be the 21st of June, Midsummer's Day. Normally our flow has started by the middle of June. That will be chestnut and bramble. And we have nothing around. Our hives are absolutely desperate for feed. We are trying to explain the situation. Normally we have, as you know, our spring flow, and it finishes sort of the mid to late April, early May. So it finishes then. But then there's usually a little bit around. But then it sort of weans off a bit and gets less and less and less, and then the chestnut and the bramble will kick in. This year it's got less and less and less, but we've still had another 2 weeks afterward. Everything seems to be late, and then we've had a lot of cold weather and rain. So like the last 3 days we've had torrential rain, we've had low pressure, which in some respects it's brilliant because it's actually wetted up the ground from before where we had a lot of dry weather. But in other respects, it's a disaster because we have no pollen coming in the hives at all. And because the spring was so good, and because the colonies built up so well and so quickly, it's done the reverse. We now have a severe dearth, and the pull on the hives for feed is unbelievable. There is no pollen in the colonies at all. They're using it up as fast as they can bring it in. So this is the kind of stuff we've got left before our main flow starts. And you can see this is called, in France they call it carotte sauvage, and the rougher translation is wild carrot. But what it is a member of the parsnip family, and it does give nectar and it does give pollen, but there's nothing on it right now because we've had so much rain. So what does that mean for us? Well, in terms of our bees, they really could do the feed. Our production colonies aren't actually suffering too much because the spring flow was really, really strong. And that means that they did add surplus. So all the people out there saying, oh, it's because you take too much and it's because you don't leave enough for the bees. Well, we have left enough for the bees, and overall our production colonies are fine. The colonies you have to watch are the ones that you use for brood factories, the ones that you're constantly taking resources from, because we've had to go in and feed them. I had one colony that nearly starved the other day. They started to cannibalize the brood, and they end up almost looking like they got chronic bee paralysis for eyes, where they're actually on the frame and they're almost shaking in stress because they're just at that point. They're at that point where they're just about to die, and they just literally are sacrificing themselves so the remaining food is available for the queen. And sure enough, the queen was alive. So what I do in that case is if I do find the odd colony like that, I go in and I literally drizzle syrup over the top of the frames, and I leave it for 2 hours. And within that 2 hours, it's like a miracle. It's the bees lick each other, clean each other, and then suddenly they revive each other, and it's remarkable because you think you've lost a lot of bees, and actually they recover really well. So that's what I've had to do in a couple of cases this time. I was completely caught out, and I keep banging on about you must know your nectar flows, and I keep banging on about you should know when to feed and when to not. And I've been caught out a little bit, but overall we're fine. But it's just something to be aware of. In relation to my queen rearing, we've got a pause on now. These are the last cells I've just put in. They were done 10 days ago, and when I did that 10 days ago, I struggled to find protein, and I struggled to find pollen frames to put in with those colonies. So what I've done is I've actually called a pause on the queen rearing for a while, because it's all very well adding pollen sub, but if you can't find decent pollen frames, you might just as well wait 4 or 5 days until the pollen starts to come back in through the door, and then with the help of pollen sub you then can start raising good cells again. We've got about 6 weeks of grafting left at the very most, maybe 5, depends on what the weather is like. So what I've done is I've just made that, we'll stop now. I have stocked another cell builder that is going to be ready to graft from next Wednesday, so that's brilliant. And it gives me a bit of time to catch up on the cleaning up, to catch up on things, so that by the time we restart, everything will be ready to go again. And also I've got to make a lot of nukes up. What we're doing now as well is we're taking an opportunity of the time scale we've got, and rather than making a lot of nukes till the end of the season, in other words going from 10 frames down to 7 with 2 partitions and 1 foundation, what we're going to do this year is we're actually going to start making nukes during the flow. Now that won't really affect the bees at all, because what we're taking is nurse bees, and we're only going to take a small nuke because there still is a fair bit of time to those nukes we're making to recover. And we know we can add pollen sub if we need to, because we've got all of July, all of August and all of September before they cram in onto the ivy in October and November. But then it's finished. Our season is fast crashing through the year, and we're already into thinking about the last gasp for getting the last 5-6 weeks of grafting done and as many queens as we can made. It's all there to play for, and the flow could be really good because we've had the rain. It just depends on the weather the next 2 or 3 weeks, so it's absolutely critical. So if you don't hear from me from the next 2 or 3 weeks, that's what I'm going to be doing. We're going to be making some nukes. We're going to be doing more intensive queen rearing, banking a lot of queens, because we've actually found we've had some issues with the emergence, but nothing major, all good. We're just really going back on what I say, back to basics, back to your ABCs. Work hard on that, make some good nukes, and at the end of it you'll come out with a good result. I need to make 150 nukes this year to go into next year. So it's all to play for and everything's good. But whatever you're doing, enjoy your bees, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers for now. Bye bye.